All right, so your homework, as you might have guessed, is to make an animation. Let's talk about what that's going to involve. Here we have John Whitney, who's an early pioneer of computer art. He's at his computer working on his film Catalog, and we'll look at a little bit of that in a second. Catalog is a really important early computer animation. And what you can see here on the left is his film camera. He's literally showing one frame on the computer, taking a photograph of it with this camera, advancing a frame, taking a picture, et cetera, to make this film. An incredible amount of work compared to how we can do it with P5JS. So TLDR, you need to make an animation with at least 3 scenes. These should play automatically, one after the other. They should include some sound, at least one. I think a background sound of some kind and maybe some sound effects would be great. Each scene could have different sound. That's up to you. And it should run full size in the browser window. So it should extend to that full size. For next time, you're going to do some rough versions of 2 of your scenes, and then you're going to finish it. This is another 2-week assignment. And after this, it's our final project. So, like we talked about in the very beginning, Pixar animation or even cell animation like Looney Tunes is not going to be possible with the tools that we have. But we can explore ideas of time, motion, and change, these core concepts of animation, through the tools that we have. And I think you'll see some examples today of some really beautiful, cool films that can be made using this. Your goal is to create something that's rich, complex, surprising, and visually exciting using that stuff. There's some stuff in the resources folder as well that I think you might find helpful. So if you look here, you'll see this verb list by artist Richard Serra. Richard Serra is mostly known as a sculptor, and this is from 1967 to 68. And here he's thinking through actions in space, actions with the body. So even just like, I think these are a cool place to start if you're feeling stuck, to droop or to flood. Like those give you all these visual ideas that you could think about trying to create in your animation. I've also created add some lists related to music, because music unfolds over time. So I like this idea of like funereal sounds, heavy, dragging, mourning, versus like lightness or grotesqueness of the lightness compared with the darkness. And then other musical terms. Again, these are all about how things flow and change. So like cantabile, a song like or singable, or crescendo, something increasing over time, or largo being like spread out. Repetition. Solo, another idea that could easily be translated where maybe you have a bunch of pieces and then it switches to a solo where it's a single shape. Could be really cool. So I think those verb lists and other resources might be good, especially if you're feeling stuck. Ideally, this is going to be under 3 minutes, so when we do the critique, we can look at it. But I want you to give your piece enough time to unfold. Don't rush it. Think about how we're experiencing it. A couple other things to note. This should include 3 scenes, but this idea of scenes is kind of a flexible idea. 3 distinct parts that come one after another, and they should be triggered automatically. So I want you to think about structuring your code. That might be done using millis or frame count, but that also might be done like a condition being met. Maybe an object is moving across the screen, and when it hits the side, it triggers the next thing. Or it could be like an audio file ending, and then it switches as well. I think a good way to think about this is a generative film. You're writing code, you're making scenes that form like a cohesive whole that fit together. Now, that the way that happens is up to you. It might lead towards a climax. They might be visually related, these scenes, or they might contrast with each other. And you could think about examples from films like Fantasia is a really awesome example of that, and also the examples that we'll look at. And then, of course, I'm also asking you to include sound. So this could be background music or environmental sound, sound effects, ambient sound of some kind. Imagine just like a recording of a waiting room at the Port Authority is going to have a different sense than Bach or something like that. So think about how sound can create space, context, and flow, or it can contrast or contradict what we see on screen visually. And definitely you can pull, there's a resources list at the bottom with some websites for that. But you can also record audio yourself, and that could be really, really fun. Code examples as usual. There is a template that I've created for you. It's in the collection of code examples in the P5JS editor. if you wanted a place to help you get started. So your deliverables is going to be an animation with at least 3 scenes and 1 sound, please. More would be rad. It should start automatically, either if you don't have a background sound, like a click. We've looked at that in the sound examples, and it should automatically switch between scenes and run full screen. So definitely you're going to want to be using width and height for most stuff as you're defining position and stuff like that. And when you're done, you're going to take 2 screenshots of every scene. So a total of 6 screenshots that documents the piece. So think about screenshots that are really going to capture the essence and the feel of that. Obviously, it doesn't include sound or motion. In creative programming 2, we do a lot of video capture. It's a little complicated for this. And in the critique, we'll play your animations together. So that's kind of the basics of this assignment. It's not really fun to like watch videos through another video, but I did want to highlight a couple of examples that I think are really important. There's lots of links here. These are all to YouTube or Vimeo. Vimeo ones, we're not going to look at all of these, but the first one, and I'm going to mute the audio, even though it's really key, at least for most of these. The first one is John Whitney's catalog. So we saw John Whitney in the beginning here, and this is from 1961. This is like early days of computers, of programming, and this is a really, really important piece in the history of creative code. So in 1961, he made this film that is literally a catalog. It's him experimenting with all these different visual effects that the computer could do. To us now, these look in some ways, I think it's beautiful. They also look a little rudimentary or old, but in this moment, he's really like exploring these fundamental ideas that we're now dealing with even today in P5.js, like 60 years later. It's crazy, so crazy. And this 7.5 minutes. So, all this stuff. And you saw in the beginning how he's actually capturing this off the screen too. So this is a huge, huge effort. This stuff's really influential. So I definitely recommend you check this out. Sound is a really nice element of this as well. Not all the examples I have to show you are computer-based. So Stan Brakhage is around the same time. He's a very influential experimental filmmaker. This is a piece called Moth Light. This is in a genre called handmade film, where you take film stock, like old film, and you actually manipulate it physically rather than using a camera. So this piece is made with moth wings and parts of dead moths that are glued to clear film, and then you make a print of it, and then what we're seeing is literally projecting through the parts of those moths. It's really gorgeous, strange, macro micro thing going on. And again, sound is a really key idea here too. It's just this like ambient thing creating this atmosphere. Another piece I wanted to show you. So this is Len Lai, who's an experimental animator. This is not done in the computer. These are even much earlier. So this is the 1930s. I'll play the audio in a moment, but this is called, there's 3 films here: Kaleidoscope, Color Box, and Color Flight. And the sound this pairs with, hopefully you can hear. It's like mambo. And that sound really shapes our experience. Like now we see this as a dance. This is like fun and exciting color happening. These are all hand drawn. But these ideas, the visual ideas, the sonic ideas apply to what we're doing in P5.js. So we can kind of, and again, he's really just experimenting, seeing all the visual possibilities, but it has this sense of flow and cohesiveness to the piece. Norman McLaren, 1940, this is Dots. This is another important early experimental animation. Let me turn this up for you. The sound here is really key as well. Not super sure how the sound is made. I'm guessing this is synthesized. And again, like really simple, but like the sound and the images are really important together. And you can tell here he's thinking about what sound makes sense with those images to create this, this like farty atmosphere. I don't know. I love it. It's amazing. It's so joyful. It's really great. A very different piece. This is by Jennifer Reeves called The Girl's Nervy. I don't have a date for this, but this is another handmade film. So this is drawn on or made from physical materials. Definitely indebted to Stan Brakhage and Moth Light. This like intense close-up feeling, but the sound is really cool because it's all like edited and smushed together and collaged. And it's a lot of the kind of like jazz that we hear in the earlier, you know, Norman McLaren and Lynn Lai, but it's some distorted, surreal, not, you know, almost like unnerving kind of sound. This is one of my favorite animators working today, Yoshi Sudoka, who does these amazing pieces. I'm going to turn down the sound here. Amazing pieces. I believe these are made in After Effects. I have no idea what the process is, but they're super gorgeous. Obviously, this is not something that's possible with the toolset we've covered in P5JS, though it is, you know, with a lot of practice. This is much more like pixel level kind of stuff, but I love the like blooming color, the motion. You know, it's totally abstract, but they're super gorgeous. They're really amazing. And the sound here has, you know, again, contextualizing. Hopefully you can hear that okay. Another artist who I really love is Ryoji Keda, contemporary artist, working with, oh, I should say, sorry, there's a warning here. If you blinking lights are a problem, you should pause the video here or zip ahead. So this is this massive installation. Ryoji Keda does these gorgeous audio-visual installations that are super minimal and are often just like patterns and patterns of sound and patterns of visuals that are completely immersive. They're often tied to data of some kind. They're really kind of incredible. So the sound here, very different. This very like computer, abstract noise. And I really love his work. His work is really amazing. So this piece is sequenced. It's scored in some way. I don't know exactly how it's working behind the scenes, but you know, again, these things are like tied together. And in this case, the space they're in is really important as well. You know, that it's this immersive experience. Andrew Benson, another artist I really love, who does all kinds of rad, trippy animation. He does music videos for folks. These are made in a tool called Jitter, which is part of Max MSP visual programming environment, mostly used for audio. The Jitter is the video component. Andrew Benson's one of the developers of Jitter, creators of it. Do not know how this is made, but it's super cool, glitchy, colors crazy. And again, the sound is really cool. And he's got lots more videos you can check out. And the last one, I super love this. This is an Egg McMuffin ad. And you might be like, what? A McDonald's ad? But no, it's so good. You know, of course, this is not created with code the way that we've been making stuff in P5JS. This is probably made in, I don't know, Blender or whatever. I hope it loads. I hope it loads. It's so good. But it's this very synchronized, cool, abstract thing showing like a hypothetical, imagined way that these Egg McMuffins are made. Oh, I was hoping I could show it to you. Let's see. We'll try one more time. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Good. So these like egg yolks or whatever on a bacon fountain. I'm not sure what's going on here, but it's so good. And I just love how it's a bunch of objects sequenced together. It's satisfying and unnerving at the same time, kind of. It's super good. Here's the muffins coming down. And again, of course, creating something with this much physics, atmosphere, and texture is going to be not really possible with P5JS, or not with the tools that we've covered so far. But you could imagine a similar idea. This is a great example too, I think, of scenes pieced together. So they're separate parts that all form this kind of cohesive whole. Physics, stuff like that's out of the scope of what we can do, but you know, you could abstract this to shapes and you start thinking, oh, there's a lot we can do. And of course, you can also use images. You could use, you know, all the stuff that we've covered so far could be helpful as you're planning your animation. Sprites, that kind of thing. Super satisfying. So we'll jump ahead to a, let's see, a finished, because I know you want to see it done. Anti-gravity cheese, I guess. I don't know. It's super good. The cheese is amazing. Oh, I guess we don't get to see a finished one. Anyway, lots more down here as well that I didn't show you. I'd recommend, especially if you're feeling stuck or you want some inspiration, check these out. They're really great. Yeah, so you're going to make an animation, 3 scenes with some audio, combining together all the ideas we talked about so far this semester. I think you're going to make some super, super rad stuff.